The Morning Majority on 630.
WMAL. 8:07 on WMAL. Happy Wednesday morning to you. Brian Neiman, Mary Catherine Ham for the Daily Caller in this morning. Former Virginia governor, former head of the RNC, Jim Gilmore. Also here, Louie Gohmert, congressman from Texas. Republican joins us now on the Morning Majority, and it is a majority this morning. Congressman, how are you?
Well, as far as I can tell, I'm okay.
That's all I need to hear. So the president gave a big speech in your state yesterday on immigration. What did you think about it?
Well, wasn't that wonderful? You know, you can have states, as we have, that have 100, 200,000, 500,000 acres burned, and it's declared a disaster area, but this administration refuses to recognize 2.3 million acres as a disaster, refuses to send Houston a shuttle. But by golly, when it comes to fundraising, he comes to Texas, sucks money out, then goes to El Paso and tells us how good things are. It was a great speech.
So do you think that the disaster is solely, is that political because of the relationship with Governor Perry?
Well, one thing we've seen is political payback is real with this administration, and he didn't carry the state, so let's kill jobs by imposing a presidential moratorium on the Gulf, causing more economic havoc than the oil spill did itself. Let's prevent Houston from getting what it should in the way of a space shuttle and send that to New York. That's far more helpful. And then when it comes to the disaster area, sure, I mean, there's plenty of precedents for fractional areas of 2.3 million acres being declared disaster area, but this administration wasn't about to do that for Texas. So, yeah, I think it's very much political.
Hey, Congressman, this is Jim Gilmore. How are you?
Well, as far as I can tell, okay, Governor.
Well, you look okay to me.
Well,
hey,
yeah, well,
of course, we're on the radio, you know.
Face made for radio.
Yeah. Listen, you know, we care a lot about the economy around the Free Congress Foundation. How's the economy in Texas? You're telling us that it's got some challenges?
Well, it has challenges like everywhere else, but of course we added more jobs in Texas than most states put together. But there are struggles anywhere, of course.
Give us your real opinion about the border security down in Texas. Do you think we got the border under control the way the president said?
Well, it is very unfortunate. I have to say, I agreed with most of his speech. You know, this is a wonderful country, and immigrants have added so much. But then he went to meddling and went beyond, you know, of course he's capable of saying things like, if you like your insurance, you can keep it, or there's more oil produced in the U.S. than ever in history, which we're now producing 5.5 million barrels instead of the 9.6 million we had before. I'll go line by line through the budget and scrub it. You know, we know he's capable of saying those things that he really means, but whoever typed it in the teleprompter didn't. And when he gets into this business about the fence is basically finished, I know he's reading, but good grief, he ought to stop and think about what he's reading. The fence is not basically finished. We knew that the majority of the fence would be a virtual fence, and most of us, apparently the president doesn't remember Governor Napolitano saying, gee, we're eliminating the virtual fence. We're not going to do that. I wasn't a big fan of the virtual fence as it was, but good grief, when that was the biggest part of the barrier between us and Mexico, and then you quit doing that anyway, then certainly there's a fence that's not basically finished. And then he said, we've done everything they've asked. Now, I know he's running for president again, but give me a break. What most of us have asked is simply secure the border. Secure the border. The border with Mexico has 1,969 miles, and over 1,200 miles of that's in Texas. We've got less than a third of the Border Patrol agents in Texas. He says since 2004, we've more than doubled the Border Patrol. We had about 8,600 Border Patrol when Bush took office. When he left, we got 17,500. He's increased that about 18%. And yet he talks as if he should get credit for doubling the numbers. In fact, if you look at his 2011 budget, he he reduced the number of Border Patrol in his own budget. He says we've got more people on the budget on the border. Again, I know he's reading, but if he would learn a little American history about our 57 states, he'd know that back in 1916, Wilson sent over 100,000 troops down to the border because we had a little flare-up with Mexico. So anyway, I appreciate most of his speech, but then he went to meddling, and he just got beyond the facts. It's not secure. And also, we've got 2 lakes down there, a 60-mile Lake Falcon, where, we had a murder recently of an American citizen that the U.S., the federal government's done nothing about, and we had a 25-mile Lake Amistad. I know Governor Perry has been begging for at least somebody from the Coast Guard to be down there guarding those lakes. Texas is spending a bunch of money to try to patrol those lakes, but we can't do it. It's a federal job, and he will not send a soul down there to help us patrol our international border on those lakes.
And Congressman, let me ask you, because it's as a member of the media, it's my sworn duty to jump forward to 2012.
Oh, please. I was hoping so.
Who is a person, when you look at these issues, who you feel like could stand up to Obama and could speak to those for you in the 2012 arena?
Take your pick. I think we've got a lot of folks that could. I wasn't convinced that Donald Trump was just the perfect person to do that, but heck, I enjoyed the debates the other day. And listen, Michelle Bachmann is a dear friend. Herman Cain, I'm a big fan of his. Newt Gingrich is a friend. We got a lot of folks that are just stout as could be.
But do you think the president? You think the president is beatable? Because there are a lot of people on the Republican side who are they seem to be a little weak-kneed about it. They think, well, I don't know if he...
Yeah. Well, I know there are a lot of people saying that, but I think the best opponent for President Obama would be President Obama, because you can take the speeches where he says the opposite of whatever he's saying in the current speech, and he's terrific.
Hey, Congressman, what do you think we got to do to get the economy moving again? I mean, that's the most. We at Free Congress think that's the most important thing.
Yes, and the spending has got to stop. What is it going to take? And I realize our leadership has said, and I'm talking about Republican leadership, we were going to cut spending. We're going to use the CR. We're going to use the debt ceiling. And, we're not seeing a lot of the same promises kept. So I got to tell you, when we promised that we'd return to pre-bailout, pre-stimulus levels, folks, that's 2007. We spent $2.7 trillion that year, and now we're spending $3.7, $3.8 trillion. It's time to return to 2.7, but the American people are going to give us a pass if we just cut $100 billion. And then that became $61 billion, and then it became $39 billion, and then they say, hey, let's don't worry about all that. Let's worry about the debt ceiling when it comes along. We've got to fight on each issue, use all the leverage we have to bring down the spending before we lose our credit rating, before the dollar ceases to be the reserve currency, and it's going to take some serious fights. But I don't understand. People were doing okay in 2007 at 2.7 trillion spending levels. I don't know why we can't get back to that. And it's going to take some Republican leadership being stronger than our leadership's been in the past too.
We think you got to reduce the budget down to $800 billion. That's the same thing that they were spending before they threw it away in stimulus. And here we're talking in terms of $30 billion. It's hardly anything at all. It's going to take a lot of discipline. Louis,
right. You're exactly right. That is what it's going to take. What are you running for next time?
Yeah, we'll ask him that coming up. All right, Congressman, good to talk to you. Hey, before I let you go, I know you're a Texas A&M grad, and I'm a Maryland grad. We just stole your head basketball coach. Should I be happy about Mark Turgeon?
I went to Texas A&M, and we are very charitable. When we see a team that's having trouble and struggling and needs a victory, needs a coach, we try to help out. But I really didn't want to help out this time,
All right.
I just hate that. I hate to lose Turgeon. He's a great coach.
All right, I'll take your word for it. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Love being with you.
Congressman Louie Gohmert here on WMAL. Traffic and weather together with Steve Hirshhorn.
Brought to you by Count Temps. Eastbound toll road slowing from Reston Parkway through Reston to Hunter Mill Road, and then again from Spring Hill Road to the Beltway. Route 7 was pretty slow now from Utterback Store Road to Tolston Road, and again from the toll road to Spring Hill Road. Outer loop of the Beltway, watch for delays from College Park around to Silver Spring, and then again from after the merge with the 270 spur around to the Virginia side across the American Legion Bridge in several stretches now with very heavy traffic on the outer loop heading from Montgomery County into Fairfax County, but everything is reported open. 270 still slowing off and on from about 118 in Germantown down to the lane divide in several stretches as well. 95 northbound Virginia, heavy from the Prince William Parkway across the Occoquan, and then from Lorton through Springfield. Now getting a report of an accident on northbound 95 after Lorton before Newington. It looks like it's on the right-hand side of the roadway. Account temps matching highly skilled temporary financial professionals with their clients' requirements for over 60 years. Call or visit them at accounttemps.com, an equal opportunity employer. Now the 6:30 WMAL Weather Channel forecast.
Mostly sunny today. 74 will be the high. Clear tonight, 54. The great week continues tomorrow. Sunshine, 75. Some clouds around Friday, but still nice, 72. Cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms possible for the weekend. High each day around 70. Right now, Reagan National, 61. We're headed up to 74 today. WMAL News Time 8:18. This is the Morning Majority. Brian Neiman, former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore in the House this morning. He's now CEO of Free Congress Foundation. Mary Catherine Hand from the Daily Caller in as well. We were talking off air. Do Americans know what they really want? Because this is my beef. Yes, okay, people want to cut spending, but you look at the polls. They don't want to touch Social Security. They don't want to touch Medicare. They don't want to touch Medicaid. So, yeah, people will say we need to do these things, but at the end of the day, they're not willing to do the things that actually need to be cut. Do you feel differently, Mr. Gilmore?
I feel this way. I think that we've put them in a box. We've had 70 or 80 years now where we've encouraged government dependency. And I think what people want is an exciting new future. I think they want to take advantage of America's secret sauce, the ability to use your entrepreneurship and use your initiative and gain wealth and independence and some excitement for the future. I think that's what people want. I don't think they want to have a dreary
that's easy. That's
future of
lollipops, though. I mean, of course, everybody wants that, but in order to get that, what do you have to do? You have to cut back, right?
Listen, we've got our program at Free Congress. We agree with you, Brian. It's called Freeze, Grow, Fix. You got to freeze the spending, you got to grow the economy, and you got to reasonably adjust the entitlement programs going forward. You do, and we think we got to emphasize growth, but that is the future. Growth means that you get people employed, you get people educated, you have some excitement about the future. We can add some immigrants into this mix, too. There's just no reason why we can't do that. You just can't break the law all the time trying to do it like the president was suggesting.
But it's like pruning, right? You have to cut back in early spring for the tree to grow and have these beautiful flowers. But the problem is that people aren't willing to cut. They're not willing to prune. No. And that's where I see the problem is. I'm concerned about that.
I don't agree. I think that there is almost a near consensus that we've got to control spending in this country, and the Congress, I think, will defy that at their risk. I'm sorry, Mary Catherine.
No, I think there's actually mildly encouraging news here, which is that, of course, in the aggregate, people always say cutting sounds great, but when you get to specifics, they get concerned.
A little
but
worried.
if you look at the actual polling on the Medicare plan, on the private insurance Medicare plan, you have 47 approve, 41% disapprove. That's still in favor, which is pretty good for an entitlement discussion. And more importantly, young people who are allegedly so irreparably liberal back at 53% at the biggest margin. So I think there's some education to be done, and you could speak to older voters and say, you guys aren't going to be affected. And these younger voters are saying, okay, we're in on this.
Right, and that was Paul Ryan's message, essentially. We need to do these things to Medicare, to Social Security, although he didn't really touch Social Security, but I've heard him talk about this in other aspects, that you need to do these things to the entitlements now in order to save them.
Right.
Yes. And that is a strong message, and it's an important message, but I feel like it gets lost because, okay, you can cite those polls. I can cite you several other polls from the Wall Street Journal, from NBC, that say, when people say they're willing to cut, but the things that they're least willing to cut are Medicare and Social Security. So that's where my concern is.
Well, we've got to develop a new system of health care that takes advantage of competition and opportunity and growth and new people and new exciting things, and get the private enterprise sector more fully engaged for the young people coming along in the future. I think that a lot of older Americans, frankly, have been victimized by a Ponzi scheme, and now we're trying to figure out how to deal with it. But creating something new for the future is the way to go, and not doubling down on the old system and trying to suck everybody into the same system, which ultimately will collapse financially.
Yes, I don't know if you read David Brooks's column yesterday in the New York Times. It was kind of interesting. Essentially saying that typically in this country, the men between the ages of 25 and 54, it's like 96% of them are working because it's the prime time to work. 25 to 54. That number right now is at 80%. There's a fifth of that group, that strong group where the prime of your working career, 25, 54 men, not working right now in the country. I mean, that's a huge concern, not only for them, but also for the country.
It diminishes revenue.
Yeah, and you're going to have people working in order to support baby boomers who are going to be retiring in the next 5 years.
We also need the talent of people in that age group that can make a contribution to the economy. But that is the problem. We're not going to be able to go on in perpetuity with 8 to 10% unemployment in this country. Growth is the answer, and there are ways of doing it, Brian. We ought to be supercharging investment in this economy, not trying to drive jobs offshore. We need to get people back to work and get some exciting future going in this country.
All right. Jim Gilmore, former Virginia governor, in this morning. We got Mary Catherine Hand for the Day Caller, and as well, we'll get back into that big debate about Big Brother watching the government. And
don't use those quote marks over there. I see you.
That's radio. No one can see me. I'm just doing it just for your effect because I know you're against it. We'll do that coming up after the news. 8:20.